everyone, and welcome to Foglight Skills 101. Today we'll explore the importance of upgrading Foglight and how to do it successfully. I'm happy to introduce our speaker. His name's Alex Tart. He's an expert in performance monitoring, and he has a really deep understanding of what Foglight can truly do. And we'd love for you to get involved. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll have a live Q&A at the end where Alex and the team will answer them. And with that, I will hand it over to Alex.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Alex Tarte. I'm one of the product specialists for Foglight. In this session, we'll talk a bit about the importance and the process of upgrading your Foglight environment. Our agenda for today will cover several key areas. We'll start by discussing the primary motivations behind upgrading. Next, we'll look into some of the upgrade challenges, including how to prepare for it and how to perform the upgrade. We'll then talk about specific considerations and best practices when upgrading high availability and federation environments. We'll also highlight the significant security enhancements and latest features introduced in recent releases. And at the end of the presentation, we'll have time to answer some of your questions. So, why upgrade? One of the reasons would be getting access to the latest fixes for known issues. This can be applicable for different parts of the product, including core components and the various cartridges. There's also some new security enhancements. This could be, for example, updates to third-party libraries, which include security fixes. There's also access to new features. Foglight is constantly improving, so new features get added with the different releases. We'll look into some of the latest security enhancements and features later in the presentation. Support for newer platforms. Here, it could be that you're looking to upgrade operating systems or databases to versions which have been added as supported in a newer Foglight release. There's also simpler upgrades when coming from a more recent release. What I mean here is that, for example, upgrading from an older release may increase the complexity of the upgrade, as depending on the versions and the type of cartridges, the upgrade path may require going through multiple phases. For example, an upgrade to version 7.1 is only supported from versions 6.1 and 6.3. So if you're coming from an older release, you may need to go through an intermediate upgrade before doing the final upgrade to the desired version. And last but not least, it would be staying current with versions of the product that are still fully supported. We encourage our customers to be on a fully supported release, as this ensures that support and development teams can provide the best assistance possible whenever an issue arises. We'll usually provide support for the current and prior versions of the product. But for more information about our product lifecycle, you can visit our support portal, where you'll find information about the versions and the dates for which each product is under full support, limited support, and support discontinued. All right, so now moving on with our next topic, let's talk about some of the challenges you would encounter during an upgrade. One would be that there are multiple components that may need to be upgraded at any given time. So a Foglight environment is generally a combination of multiple components. We can have core components such as the management servers and agent managers, and also the various cartridges for different agent types. Depending on the type of upgrade, you may need to upgrade multiple components together due to versions requirements between them, or a single component can be upgraded as long as versions remain compatible. We also have a different type of configurations. We have standalone installations, and we also have high availability and federation environments. The process to upgrade those does not differ much between them, but there are specific considerations for the layer 2 that we'll be checking later on. There's also part of the challenges would be the preparation steps before the upgrade and going through the actual upgrade for the different components that we'll be reviewing in the upcoming slides. All right, let's now talk about how to prepare for the upgrade. As we mentioned, before performing the upgrade, it's important to prepare and plan for it. So we first recommend to review the available documentation. This can include the upgrade guide with information on how to go over the upgrade for different configurations, the upgrade order, and best practices. We also have the release notes for the core components and the cartridges. This can include details about the upgrade path and cartridge-specific considerations such as what documentation to look for. The system requirements and platform support guide. This one will have details on the supported operating systems for Foglight Management Server, Foglight agent managers, and supported backend database platforms. We also have notices in the support portal. For some of the components, we may put notices in the support portal if there's a known issue that should be taken into consideration when performing the upgrade. The download links in these cases will show an upgrade caution icon, as we can see here. And that will usually point to a knowledge-based article with additional information on how to proceed. In the support portal, we'll have sections for each product. We have Foglight for databases, Foglight Evolve, including the documentation listed here. Before the upgrade, we also suggest to review the current configuration of the Foglight environment, such as what version of the components are currently in use, operating systems, type of deployment, and available resources. This, along with information in the documentation, can help identify if there's any changes that may be needed before moving forward with the upgrade, define the upgrade path, and software that needs to be downloaded. Also, create support bundles. This can be useful as a reference of the state of the configuration of the environment before the upgrade, and it's also something that support may ask for troubleshooting purposes in case there's any issues during the upgrade. Next, it would be getting software from the support portal. If upgrading components individually, so you will need to get the Foglight installer, the Foglight agent manager cartridges, and agent cartridges, depending on the type of upgrade that you are going to do. This can be found in the software download section for each of the product in our support portal. In this point, when you are deciding which installer to use, you may have the option to use the Foglight core installer or the all-in-one installers for Foglight for databases and Foglight Evolve. The core installer includes the Foglight Management Server, infrastructure cartridges, and in the latest releases, also the Foglight Agent Manager cartridges. This would be starting from the version 7.1.5. Foglight for Database installer also includes most of the database cartridges and Agent Manager cartridges. The database cartridges are available individually, but using the all-in-one installer can simplify and reduce the time it takes to complete the upgrade, as most of the necessary components will be installed together. The Foglight Evolve installer includes all the cartridges from the Evolve product line, and this would be the one to use when upgrading a Foglight Evolve environment, as the cartridges are not available individually. Something to note here is that in some cases, like when a hotfix version of the installer is prepared to address specific issues for core components, an all-in-one installer for the most recent release may not be available. So before the upgrade, we also recommend to prepare backups. This is important, so if any issues occur during the upgrade, depending on the complexity and severity of the issue, restoring from a backup could be the best option to reduce downtime. And once the issue is understood, investigated, then the upgrade can be reattempted at a later time. When backing up Foglight, you would want to back up the databases for Foglight and the SQL Performance Investigator repositories if that feature is in use. You would also want to do a file system level backup of the Foglight installation directories for the agent managers and the management servers. And if possible, take a snapshot of the virtual machine, as this can provide a quick recovery point. And here we recommend to stop the Foglight application before creating the backups, as it ensures that there's no new data being saved. All right, so now let's move on into the actual upgrade process, starting with the standalone Foglight upgrade. And by a standalone Foglight upgrade, we are referring to a deployment that's not on a federation or high availability configuration. The actual process is pretty straightforward. We will first stop the Foglight management server. This would be done by the installer, but we recommend to do it beforehand. Then extract and run the executable. Then select custom install, confirm the path of the current installation, select upgrade, and just complete the installation wizard from this point forward. The article that we list here and for the other components that we'll be looking on can be used as a reference of the process. Let's now do a quick overview of the process. Do note that this is sped up to reduce the wait times during the demo. Once we have stopped Foglight and having extracted the files, we can launch the installer. Then we select next. We accept the license agreement, choose custom install, verify that the path is the one where Foglight is currently installed, and click next. The installer will detect that there's an existing installation and we can select upgrade, then continue with the upgrade. From this port, just continue with installation wizard until completion. And here we can see that the upgrade should be done. All right. Then the upgrade of the agent managers and agent is performed from the web user interface. When upgrading the agent managers, first it would be installing the agent manager cartridges. This can be specific for Windows or Linux operating systems, or it's also possible to use the all cartridges that includes both. As we mentioned, newer versions of Foglight will include the agent manager cartridges with all the installers, including the core one, so this step may not be necessary if already upgrading the Foglight management server. Once the cartridges are installed, the option to upgrade the host will be available from the agent manager's dashboard, and from there, the upgrade of the agent manager host can be performed individually or multiple can be selected at the same time. For the demonstration, we'll start from the cartridge inventory dashboard, and we'll choose the cartridge to install. Then, in this case, we'll select the agent manager all cartridge, click install cartridge, the message that we see here indicates that there are incompatible versions of the agent manager cartridges that will be disabled. We click enable anyways as new versions of those cartridges will be installed. Once done, we can go to the agent manager's dashboard, and from there we can see that the host is upgradable. So we can either click on the yes link for the host, or we can select multiple agent managers to proceed with the upgrade. We select all the agent managers we have here, and then click on upgrade, then finish. And while the process is ongoing, we'll see that the agent managers will disconnect briefly. So once they do and they reconnect back, they should be running on the latest version. And at this point, the upgrade of the agent managers should be done. Moving on to the upgrade of the agents, then we recommend to restart the Foglight agent managers before performing the upgrade. This is to ensure that they are able to restore without issues and reconnect back to the Foglight management server. If any problems are encountered in this point, then those can be investigated before proceeding with the upgrade. After that, then install the agent cartridges for the desired agent types, and depending on the installed cartridge, for some of them, such as SQL Server, Oracle, and DB2, they will need to complete or go over the upgrade wizard from the database's dashboard to finish the upgrade process. For the agents that do not have an upgrade wizard, then the process would need to be completed from the agent managers or agent status dashboard to perform the deployment of the agent package. In this example, we'll upgrade the SQL Server cartridge using the wizard. Once the cartridge has been installed, from the cartridge inventory dashboard, we can go to the database's dashboard. And here we can see that the upgrade required flag is enabled. And we can either click on the upgrade required flag, or we can click on the upgrade icon in the upper right corner to initiate the upgrade wizard. In this first window, we'll see what's new for this particular release. We can click next. Then update the SQL PI components. Then upgrade the selected agent managers. And at this point, the upgrade of the agent should be done. What we can do from this point is going to the agent status dashboard, and we can verify that the agent or the version of the agent matches the one that we have just recently installed. In this example, we'll upgrade the PostgreSQL agent. Once the cartridge has been installed, we can go to the agent manager's dashboard or agent status dashboard to complete the upgrade. From the agent manager's dashboard, we can see that the agent column indicates that there's an upgrade available. So we can either click on the link or we can select it and click on the upgrade button. Here we click on the upgrade link, yes, to initiate the upgrade. Click finish. Then wait for this process to complete. And when it's done, we can do the same that we did before and go to the agent status dashboard and verify that the version of the agent matches the cartridge that we just installed. And with this, the process of the agent should be done. All right, so now let's look into operating high availability environments. In these cases, we must consider the following. So all the members of the HA cluster must be stopped. The upgrade of each member then is performed individually and sequentially. Once all the members have been upgraded, then they can be started. And once started, then cartridges can be upgraded. Here it's important for the standby nodes to be connected to the cluster for cartridge synchronization to be performed. Okay, so for upgrading federation environments, the best practices would be to first disable the topology synchronization. This would be done by commenting out the shell server entries from the federation configuration file, the federation.config. Then complete the upgrade of each shell server. The upgrade process would be the same as if you were upgrading a standalone Foglight or a Foglight that's in high availability configuration, if that's applicable. After the shell servers have upgraded, then upgrade the federation master. Here, it's important for the cartridges to match the versions of the ones that are being used in the shell servers. Finally, re-enable topology synchronization to complete the upgrade. Now, looking at some of the issues you could encounter during an upgrade, based on what support has worked on, we have that upgrading environments that use integrated authentication in Foglight 7.1 can encounter failures during the installer process when integrated authentication is used for SQL Server. We do have a workaround for this, but it's also something that has been fixed in the Foglight 7.3 release. There's conflict with third-party applications. We have encountered some applications such as Dynatrace can cause conflict during the installation and upgrade process. We have a knowledge base article for this type of issues in case that we have run into them before. Unable to log in using LDAP authentication, this process is actually caused by the default Java thruster getting replaced during the upgrade when the Java runtime environment gets updated. The workaround is to simply restore from the backup that the installer creates, but another option would be to use the Foglight thruster that can persist after an upgrade. We also have incompatible cartridges. These could be cartridges that are no longer compatible with a newer version of Foglight and may need to be disabled. This is something that could come up while preparing for the upgrade. There's also incomplete upgrades. The most common scenarios in these cases would be that the upgrade wizard or the agent package deployment is pending to be completed, but it could also be possible that there's some cartridges that are yet to be installed. We also have sizing performance issues. For example, the memory allocations for the agent managers may not be enough, and there could be other performance issues on the server. And it's also something that sometimes could be identified while restarting the agent managers during the agent upgrade stage. We have missing permissions after cartridge upgrades. Updates in agents may include collection changes that require additional privileges. So grant scripts may need to be run again in order to grant those permissions to the monitoring account. And we also have software downloads for older versions that are no longer available. This can be related to what we mentioned before about the upgrades being simpler when coming from a more recent release, and also keeping up to date with versions of the portal that are still fully supported, because versions of the components that are required to follow the upgrade path may no longer be available in the support portal. So in these cases, the solution would be to reach out to support, and they should be able to provide the necessary files. Note that if there's any errors, the installer logs, the logs directory, and screenshots of those errors can be of use when contacting support. And the errors can also be searched in our knowledge base article for existing solutions. For some of the security enhancements in recent releases, we have that new versions of Foglight and the Foglight agent managers will usually ship with a new version of the Java runtime environment, including vulnerability fixes since the last release. There's also new versions of Tomcat that can be included. We also have third-party libraries such as Log4j, Spring, Apache that may be upgraded in between releases. We have disabled TLS 1.0, TLS 1.1 for the Foglight management server, and also weak ciphers have been disabled from Tomcat. This is something that could be done manually before, but we have updated default configurations. We have also updated default encryption algorithms to AES 256 and address issues with supporting HTTPS traffic when running on FISP mode that we have encountered in Foglight 7.1. There's support for GMSA authentications for SQL Server and Windows connections. And with Foglight 7.1.5, we have added support for new SSH algorithms. This is something that's becoming more important as new versions of Unix distributions are disabling older algorithms by default, and this can have an impact to agent connectivity. There's improvements in SAML authentication. These include newer libraries and updated configuration parameters. And we have also added support for Kerberos authentication for monitoring SQL Server. These are just a few examples, but additional information can be found on the release notes for each version. Now, looking into the new features, we have the new Angular interface. This was introduced in Foglight 6. It includes a global search and a left navigation panel where the items are searchable. And this is also something that will keep improving with each release as new dashboards using this interface get introduced. For example, we have the alarm templates and notification channels dashboards. Both of these are unified views to manage alarms and email notifications. We have the new audit log dashboard and the new time range selector that use the Angular interface. We have the introduction of query insights. This provides a high-level view of the top consuming queries in the environment. We have the remove literals functionality. This would be an option to replace personally identifiable information from queries before submitting that data into Foglight. We have the global blackouts functionality. This would be an option to a command line option in particular to disable or black out the whole environment. Okay, so we also have stability improvements for agent managers in HA. This in 7.1. Some of the examples would be that the partitions will always fall back to the one with the highest priority. And there's also periodic checks to make sure that the agents are running on the primary node. We have that open source and NoSQL databases are now part of the databases menu, and the databases dashboard will only show tiles if there are monitored targets for that particular type. There's the replacement of RMI with a callback mechanism in database agents. And we now allow some of the databases and query insights data to be exported via an OpenTelemetry API. And last would be that we have SQL Performance Investigator for PostgreSQL. Again, these are just a few examples, but for more information, you can refer to the release notes of each version. So here I'm just referring some of the knowledge-based solutions and articles for some of the items we have covered throughout the presentation. And this would be it for the presentation. Thank you all for joining. And now let's see if there's any questions for any of the items we have covered.